Welcome into the Commanders Report live show. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. We'll put up producer Joey Petersen here in just one moment, but we got a bunch of great Commanders content coming your way here to kick off your weekend here in Commanders Nation. First up on today's show, the latest Commanders news and rumors. We've got some new stuff that we want to talk about today. There was a new article suggesting the Commanders should try and trade for Tyreek Hill. I'll let you guys know if that's something that I would even consider. Then we'll get into Washington's secret weapons on the defensive side of the ball, players that I think nobody is expecting to really be big-time contributors in Dan Quinn's defense this year. And then we'll finish up with our live Commanders Q&A. If you want a question on the show, the real ones know what to do. Use hashtag Commanders along with your question down there in the live chat. Or if you want to guarantee your question gets on the mailbag today, you guys can super chat any dollar amount, and Joey will make sure that that question gets on the mailbag. Speaking of producer Joey, he is back this week. Shout out to producer Coop for helping out last week. But Joey, welcome back to the show, my friend. And are you ready to talk some Commanders football?
I'm ready, man. We had a pretty big week, schedule release, but unfortunately with schedule release comes the unfortunate realization that we go into a pretty dark time period over the next couple of months before we get some real football.
Yeah, we get some tidbits from OTAs and mandatory minicamp, and then after minicamp, it's like literally nothing until training camp. So, we got to soak up all the rest of the juice that we got left here during the offseason. But with Trey Hendrickson out there, it seems like his situation's getting worse and worse by the day. Who knows what Adam Peters still has up his sleeve to finish out the offseason.
Yeah, man, Trey Hendrickson, it's one of those things that it's like every other week it almost seems like there's a new report. It feels like they're getting close, and then something comes out. It's like they're very far away. They haven't spoken.
And then Hendrickson comes out and says, these guys have not talked to me. Like these guys are I think he said that things have gotten personal.
Yeah, he said, I'm taking it personally.
Yeah, and I can see why. It seems like they're just straight up disrespecting him, and they're saying we're not even willing to pay $35 million per year. And for somebody that's had 17.5 sacks the last 2 years, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. We also did just get some NFL news. Brock Purdy for the San Francisco 49ers just got a massive contract extension, $53 million per season. And honestly, with Dak getting the $60 million last year, 53 is going to be a bargain 2 or 3 years down the road, it feels like.
Yeah, I think that was a good deal. Put some under Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow. I'm trying to think of the other quarterbacks who are at 55.
I think it's
Josh Allen.
Yeah, it's a great deal for San Francisco because they get a quarterback that is a perfect fit for their offense.
He wins.
He has been so productive since he's entered the league. His career averages is more than the stat line of Josh Allen last year, and he won league MVP.
Josh Allen sucks.
Josh Allen sucks. Says the Lamar Jackson guy over here. But, I think Brock Purdy is a really, really good fit for what they do in San Francisco. I think he's worth every single dime of that. And honestly, I think San Francisco got a great deal. So we're not here to talk about the 49ers, though. We're here to talk about the Washington Commanders. And Joey, the Commanders fans have heard my record prediction, my thoughts on the schedule here. But what are your thoughts on the Commanders' schedule here now that we've got word on this?
My first thought is Roger Goodell and the National Football League, they are buying into the Jaden Daniels experience. They are loving themselves some JD. A lot of primetime games. You got a holiday game as well. You got a game overseas. They're trying to get as much Jaden Daniels on the schedule as they can. And I think it's just shows you how impressive his rookie year was. I got another, little takeaway. It's a really hard one. It's a tough schedule. The NFC East, just all around, is going to have a tough schedule because you're going to have to play Philadelphia. You're going to have to play...
You play them twice in 3 weeks.
Exactly. You play Philadelphia twice. You play Dallas twice, who's going to have Dak back. Now it's going to have George Pickens. And then also, your opponent is the NFC North, who was the best conference or best division in football last year. So that's going to bring you some tough games.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough schedule. I do think, as weird as it sounds, I think the Commanders are a better team this year, but the the chances of them, getting as many wins or maybe even one less game win this year is very possible because of how many tough games they do have to face. And if they don't, get Trey Hendrickson, or if they don't, make another big move and Jaden Daniels, doesn't take a step forward here, there's a chance that this team, maybe isn't going to take that leap into 12 or 13 wins like some people are expecting out of this team this year. I still think they're going to be a playoff team. I still think that I think that they have a damn good chance of winning this division, knowing the history of this division. You don't have repeat champions very often. Dallas, I think, is very volatile because of the new head coach and George Pickens. Who knows if he's even going to be able to stay on the field with his kind of off-field issues. I think the Commanders have a really good chance at making a statement this year, but it is going to be a tough record for sure, or tough schedule.
It will be. It's just going to be interesting to see how Jaden Daniels develops, because now everybody's going to have a full year and a full offseason to prepare for him.
Yeah.
And
everyone's got tape on him now.
You're going against some really good defensive coordinators, and Vic Fangio and Matt Eberflus in Dallas. They're going to have to play him twice a year. Lord knows they've been spending their entire offseasons kind of trying to figure out how to beat him, because they know they're going to have to do it for the next 10 years.
I will say, he's the type of guy where tape is not going to you're going to have a tough time finding tape answers for him. All right.
Sure.
Just because he makes plays out of structure, and when the play breaks down, that it's just, you can't account for that. It's just speed and, the ability and poise in the pocket and throwing on the run and vision and, out of structure playmaking. That's the stuff that it's really tough to prepare for, which is why I think he's going to be just fine. But the in-structure stuff, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers did a really good job on him last year. Did a lot of man blitzing against him. I would kind of expect a lot of teams, especially early in the season, to kind of bring that out. And, they got to find answers for that. They got to get the ball in Deebo Samuel's hands and, do the stuff and use some of their new weapons on offense to kind of counteract some of that, chess playing that defensive coordinators are going to have to try to limit JD.
Question for you before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage, if you had to guess right now, would Deebo Samuel's receptions come from 2 yards and back?
It's a good percentage. I think, most of it, I think it's going to come in two ways. It's going to come in manufactured touches, so orbit motions, jet sweeps, screens. That's going to be a large chunk of his work on early downs. But then when he is a true receiver, he's going to be running digs. That's his best route by far. It's what he ran a ton at San Francisco. And Jaden Daniels is excellent at getting to that backside dig. So, you have your one side there where you got your concept and you're probably reading Terry as your number one. And if they got him covered, then you go to your backside and there's Deebo Samuel, moving freight train running across the intermediate middle of the field. And if he's open, he's not going to be afraid to let that rip. And you get the ball in the hands of Deebo Samuel out in space. I mean, he is a tough son of a gun to bring down. So that's going to be his main kind of ways that he brings value to the Commanders' passing attack. And then, I think a big question is, outside of Deebo and Terry, who's going to be your third guy? Is it going to be Noah Brown, who showed some good things for you last year? Is it going to be Jalen Lane, who they took in the 4th round this year, who's a speedster? Is it going to be Luke McCaffrey, who he took in the 3rd round last year and didn't really show you a whole bunch last year, but you're hoping is going to take the next step? I think that those questions are going to be very interesting to see how they get answered, and I'm excited for this next year. I really am, man. We're going to talk some Commanders football today. Make sure you guys type those me's in the chat if you haven't already for a shout-out if you've liked today's show. We've got 170 Commanders fans ready to talk some football here, but we got to get to 40 likes before we get into our first segment. Right now, we're just at 24 likes, so we need 16 more likes down there in the comments section. I see Christian down there. I see Connor down there. I see Evan down there. I see JG. I see Demarius Young. What's up, Demarius? We got Gerald in the chat. Of course, we got my lovely girlfriend, Cassie, both watching. Everyone say hi to Cassie. We got Ken Gray already putting in his question. We've got Orlando. We've got Divine King, Ronnie King. We've got G Tuck from McKinney, Texas. G Tuck, come hang out with us,
there
man.
We go.
We're not that far away from you, my man. We got Stephen Austin. We got Orlando. We got Gallup. We got a good crew of Commanders fans ready to talk some Commanders football today. Joey, I've got to sneeze here. So I don't want to get into this first segment because I feel like I got to sneeze. But I think it's going away right now. So our first segment is the latest Commanders news and rumors. So just so you guys know, spoiler warning, I'm probably going to sneeze during this first cut. So don't be alarmed when that happens. But then we'll get into some secret weapons on defense that I think you should be keeping your eye on here for the Commanders. And then make sure you get your questions in, hashtag Commanders or Super Chat to get on the live Q&A. So without further ado, let's get into our first segment today, the latest news and rumors surrounding the Burgundy and Gold. Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today we got a lot of Commanders news and rumors to cover here on the show. First up, Coach Quinn hints at Deebo Samuel's quote-unquote unique role in the Commanders offense. I'll let you guys know what I kind of expect from Deebo this year from a schematic standpoint. Second up, we're going to be talking about whether or not Washington needs to add another big-name receiver to add to Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel for 2025. And then we'll finish up today's show with a couple of names on the wide receiver market that I think the Commanders could consider if they want to add another name to this room. But before we get into the content today, we are almost at 41,000 subscribers here on the Commanders Report. We're just 128 subscribers away, and I would really appreciate if you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. New viewers, we are counting on you guys. The real ones that have already clicked that subscribe button can't help us out here. It's got to be the new people here to help us get to 41K subscribers. And the reasons why you should subscribe is because we got daily Commanders videos on this channel every single day, 100% free. Also, breaking news coverage. So if the Commanders trade for Trey Hendrickson or if they make another move at receiver, we're going to have you covered with a video here on the Commanders Report. Also, weekly live shows every single week as well. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already to help us get to 41,000 subscribers here at the Commanders Report family. Okay, now, so let's get into our first topic of the day, which is Deebo Samuel. And I'm super excited to see Deebo play in this offense. I think that he's going to be a perfect fit for Cliff Kingsbury's scheme. And Dan Quinn recently took the podium and he hinted at using Deebo Samuel in a quote-unquote unique role in his offense. This is what Dan Quinn had to say about Deebo's role here with Washington. That's kind of what's fun about it, adding new people in. The nice part about when you do trade for somebody or in the draft as well, you find these unique things that a player has, and man, does he have them. So listen, man, I do expect Deebo to be, kind of the chess piece and kind of the manufactured touch guy here with the Cliff Kingsbury offense. And according to Dan Quinn, Cliff and Brian Johnson, the assistant offensive coordinator here, have been cooking up some things for Deebo Samuel, saying Cliff and Brian and the guys have certainly been up extra late in the offseason of finding unique ways to get the ball in that man's hands. So I do think that Deebo Samuel is somebody that is going to be used a lot on orbit motions. He's going to be used a lot in terms of early down screen usage. We know how much Cliff Kingsbury loves his wide receiver screens for easy touches as kind of an extension of the Commanders' run game. Also, he can be used on jet sweeps and all these different things. And then I also think he's going to be used as a dig receiver to kind of, give Jaden Daniels that backside option in case his main read with Terry McLaurin and others isn't open. And I do think, you get the ball in Deebo Samuel's hands in space and on those screens and on those digs and on those drags and all these different ways that you can get the ball to him in space. I think that he is absolutely going to be that gadget type of wide receiver that Cliff Kingsbury has wanted in this offense for a long time. And the question, that a lot of Commanders fans should be asking themselves right now is who will be Washington's true number 2 receiver in this offense? Because Deebo's not going to be like a true number 2 receiver. He's going to be moving all around the formation. He's going to be even in the backfield. He's going to be in the slot, outside, in motion before the snap. So you need somebody else to kind of pair with Terry McLaurin as like another true receiving threat. And right now it appears that answer is going to be Noah Brown. And then it could be Luke McCaffrey. It could be Jalen Lane as well. Those are 2 younger receivers that this team has drafted in the middle rounds. But they did re-sign Noah Brown this year. And I think that he's a big question mark heading into the season. Should they trust him to be that legitimate number 3 receiver with Deebo Samuel doing all the unique things he's going to be doing in this Commanders scheme? You take a look at Noah Brown and the numbers that he has put up over the last several seasons. He's had a tough time staying fully healthy for the entirety of a season. certainly has had an injury history. Last year, as you'll remember, he got injured last year as well. He played in 11 games, had 453 yards in this offense, averaged almost 13 yards per reception, and had a touchdown with Jaden Daniels. He showed some really good things in this offense last year, and he's been a guy that's been hovering around that 500 yard mark for the last 3 seasons or so. So he's a big play threat. He's a big body. He's a decent route runner. He is, the definition of kind of a mid-level kind of starting, secondary wide receiver in the National Football League. And my guess is that because they spent a 5th-round pick on Deebo Samuel and because they're likely going to give Terry McLaurin that massive contract extension at some point this offseason, that they're probably going to roll with Noah Brown. If I'd had to guess right now, I don't think they add to this receiver room. I think they're cool with the guys that they have in that group right now, and they probably won't add to it before the start of the 2025 season. But coming up here, I'll let you guys know the top wide receiver targets that I would consider, including we're going to talk about an article that suggests the Commanders should go out and trade for Tyreek Hill. All right, so we'll talk about that possibility here in just a moment. But first, let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Should the Washington Commanders add another wide receiver this offseason, or are they good? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section for today's pinned question. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Fanatics. When I'm talking about Fanatics here, go down there and give me a yes or a no to today's pinned question. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics, where you guys can get a Deebo Samuel jersey. If you're just as excited as I am to see Deebo play in this offense, and he's wearing that number 1, I think he's going to look damn sharp in that number 1 jersey this year with the burgundy and gold. So go to chatsports.com/Deebo if you haven't already to pick up a Deebo Samuel jersey for yourself. It also helps out the channel because every time someone clicks that link, chatsports.com/Deebo, it's in the comments and description of today's show, and somebody makes a purchase, Fanatics sends us part of the proceeds here at the Commanders Report. So if you want to help out the channel and help yourself out by getting a brand new Deebo Samuel jersey, go to chatsports.com/Deebo to make it happen. So let's talk about this article from Douglas Fritz from Clutch Points here, who suggests that instead of trading for Trey Hendrickson, the Washington Commanders should trade for Tyreek Hill, superstar wide receiver from the Miami Dolphins. This is what Douglas had to say in his article. If the Commanders don't pony up the trade capital to get Henderson, they better plan to outscore people. And that means their offense needs one more element of explosiveness. The Commanders are solid at wide receiver with Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Noah Brown, and Michael Gallup. But adding a third element like Hill to McLaurin and Samuel could put Washington over the top. Now, I actually talked with our Dolphins host here at Chat Sports, Nick Roloff, and he told me that he would trade Tyreek Hill away for a 3rd-round draft pick. All right, so to me, a team that's trying to win now, like the Washington Commanders, adding an explosive wide receiver like Tyreek Hill for just a 3rd-round pick in terms of player on paper and then trade value on paper, I think that is an absolute steal for the Washington Commanders if they wanted to do something like that. But the problem is Washington doesn't really have a lot of draft capital in next year's NFL draft. And if you give away a draft pick, like you're giving away, your power to make picks in certain sections of the NFL draft. Like if you give up your 3rd-round pick next year, guys, as you guys can see here, you don't pick again after round 1 until round 5. So that's no picks from rounds 2 through 4 if you trade away your 3rd-round pick next year for Tyreek Hill. So that is something that I'm not willing to do. And I think that if the Commanders want to make something work here, I think they can. You guys can take a look at this trade idea here for Tyreek Hill. This is what I would put together if I were the Commanders and I was really interested in putting together a package for Hill. And I'm not even saying the Dolphins would take this. This is just what I would offer. But I would do a pick swap in 2026. I would give the Dolphins the Commanders' 3rd-rounder, but we get their 4th-rounder back, so the Commanders aren't losing any picks in terms of the total number of picks next year. You also give the Dolphins your 4th-round pick in 2027, and you also give them Noah Brown, because if you're adding Tyreek Hill, do you really need Noah Brown on this roster anymore? You can certainly argue no. So let me know what you guys think about this trade idea down there in the comments section. A for accept or D for decline. I think on paper, this is a steal for a guy like Tyreek Hill, who, when healthy, is still arguably a top 5 receiver in all of football. He does come with some off-field baggage, obviously, so you have to take that into account as well. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. A for accept or D for decline. Then two other options the Commanders, I think, could consider on the free agency market, because I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense to trade for a receiver unless it is like a Tyreek Hill type of talent. But free agents, you don't have to give up any draft capital for, right? So Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper are two veterans that are probably going to want to go to win-now teams, and I think could really help this Commanders squad in 2025. You look at Keenan Allen back in 2023, 2 seasons ago with the Chargers, he was still putting up over 1,200 yards, almost 100 yards a game, and 7 touchdowns and over 100 receptions. I mean, this guy was absolutely a legit number 1 receiver just 2 years ago, and then last year the numbers did dip with Chicago, but you have to take into account that entire offensive situation in the Windy City last year was a complete disaster. DJ Moore, who had like 1,300 yards the year prior with Justin Fields at quarterback, mind you, went all the way down to like 900 yards last year in that Bears offense. So Keenan wasn't the only one to see a dip in production. He still had 70 catches, and he was still a very good player for that Bears offense. And then Amari Cooper's another guy that had a phenomenal 2023 season, and almost 85 yards a game, over 1,200 yards and 72 catches with 5 tuds. And then last year just kind of fell off a cliff a little bit, had a little bit of a drop issue that you were not used to seeing from Amari Cooper, and that's why the Browns traded him away to the Bills. And then, he had some production there in Buffalo, but it certainly wasn't enough, or it definitely wasn't what the Bills were expecting when they sent a high draft pick to the Browns in exchange for his services. So both these guys are a little bit older. They did see a dip in production last year, but if I had to choose between both of these guys, or you pick one or the other, I'd pick Keenan Allen, because I think in a competent offense like the one Cliff Kingsbury runs here in Washington, I think he could be an awesome addition. If you're looking for that kind of true, versatile route running type, veteran savvy type of player to put on the other side of Terry McLaurin, I think that he is perfect for that role, and I do think he's an upgrade compared to Noah Brown in that role in the Commanders offense. So I would love to add him, and that'll be it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by today. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we got more Commanders content coming your way all throughout the weekend. And until I see you guys next time, hail to the Commanders. First segment in the books, Mr. Joey. Coming up next, we've got Washington's secret weapons on the defensive side of the ball. Kind of a nerdy, kind of scheme type of video coming up that you guys know I love to do for you guys on this channel. And then we got our questions. We've got the live Q&A coming up. So make sure you guys use hashtag Commanders or Super Chat to get your questions in there. I know we've already got quite a few questions in there, Joey. You know how many we have in there right now?
We have 1, 2, 3.
We have 3 questions, so we need more.
Yeah, we need more. Probably around 5 to 6 more.
Sounds good. So we got over 200 people in the chat. If you got a question about the Commanders' schedule, if you got a question about OTAs coming up, if you got a question about the draft class, if you got a question about the season in general, don't be shy. Get your question down there. The way it works is you use hashtag Commanders in a live comment down there, and then you put your question in there. So, for example, hashtag Commanders, will Jaden Daniels win league MVP this year, or whatever question you want. If you put that in there, Joey can see your question, and it's kind of up to Joey whether or not he puts it in there. So you better ask a good question, because Joey doesn't like bad questions, guys, all right? Do you, Joey?
I don't, so they better be good.
They better be good questions.
Sperry, on the discussion and topic of Brock Purdy that we were talking about earlier with his contract extension. For those of you who don't know, Brock Purdy, $53 million a year, 5 years with the San Francisco 49ers for Mr. Irrelevant. How much would you predict Jaden Daniels gets in, 3 years? Whatever
the highest point is, that's what it'll be.
Yeah.
Like if it's 65 at that point, he'll make 66. If it's 66, he'll make 67. As long as he continues on his trajectory that he started on his rookie season, he's still awesome. There's no reason why he shouldn't be the highest paid quarterback in the league. And by the way, the second that he becomes eligible to get an extension, the Commanders should lock him up.
Yeah, I agree.
Immediately.
There's no reason to wait.
There's no reason to wait. Don't, pussyfoot around and wait until, somebody else, resets the market, and then you have to pay more for him. Pay him, league high money right when you can. Just don't mess around with it unless he's asking for like $10 million more than like the next highest paid quarterback. But like, I don't think he's going to be asking for that. I don't know.
Has any team ever saved money from like waiting months to sign a player?
No way.
I don't think so.
There's no way. And like the only way that would work out is if like the player just stinks.
Yeah.
And like the player sucks, and then like you're wondering, do we even sign him at all?
Yeah.
At that point, because like. The way the quarterback position works is that these guys have so much leverage because of how important the position is. And, like, if you're in a win-now situation, like, you can't afford to let that quarterback go and then start over with a rookie because rookies don't win in this league. Like, you have to have a veteran in there if you want to win. And, you know, it's a tough situation, man. So whenever Jaden Daniels' contract comes up, all right, off season of his third season or whatever it is, fourth season, whatever, pay him his fucking money. Like just get it done, get it over with. Don't be messing around with this because you're gonna have to. Because the longer this thing goes on, the more you're gonna have to pay. So just pay up while you can.
I'm curious what it will be at that point because
me too.
Dak got 60,
and nobody's beaten him so far. And
Josh Allen got 55, and so he took $5 million less. Obviously, he's getting more guaranteed, and it's less years. It's 4 years compared to 6 for Dak, which is unbelievable.
Honestly, I think it's going to be somewhere around 65 by the time Jaden comes due, because there's going to be a couple of quarterbacks that are worth more than Dak that hit the market and are due for extensions. Lamar is going to be coming up here soon that I think will get paid more. And then, you know, somewhere around that 65 million mark is probably where I think Jaden is gonna make, and Caleb and those guys that when their contracts come up.
Will Burrow get his next deal before Jaden?
I think Burrow got his deal 2 years ago. So
probably.
Yeah, probably.
CJ Stroud will get paid.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see what he gets paid.
Yeah, let's see if Stroud bounces back. Like
he sucked last year.
He was not good last year, and he's kind of the he's kind of the cautionary tale for Commanders fans out there, because like if Jaden has the type of sophomore season that CJ had last year, I don't think the Commanders make the playoffs. This team is so Jaden Daniels dependent that they need last year's version at the very least of Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
And if they want to win a championship, they need even more than what they got from Jaden Daniels last year.
I mean, the only reason Stroud made it is because he played the worst division in sports.
Yeah.
If he would have been in a competent division, and if he didn't get to play the Colts twice a year and the Titans and Jags twice a year, there's no shot they would have made the postseason.
Also, the pass protection last year in Houston was just abysmal. It was actually kind of similar to Tyler Shuck's film, in my opinion, where the pocket trauma, like he got the football and it just looked like he knew the pressure was going to get back there, and his eyes would go down, and he just wasn't playing as comfortably as he was his rookie season.
Yeah.
So he needs to get that confidence back if he wants to get paid that big contract. And hopefully, you know, the offensive line here in Washington holds up. They did make some very key adjustments and big additions to this group. So there's certainly reasons why that's going to happen. Okay, let's get into our next segment here. Some secret weapons for the Commanders defense are coming at you right now. Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today, I'm going to tell you 2 defensive players on the Commanders roster that could be secret weapons for the Commanders defense that kind of come out of nowhere this year to be big-time contributors for this defense in 2025. But before we get into the content today, we want to win or beat the record here on the Commanders Report for the most added subscribers on a video in channel history. So in the month of May, the most new subscribers we have gained from any video we have ever done on this channel is 96 new subscribers. We're trying to beat that record today and get to 100 new subscribers today and get to triple digits for the first time ever in the month of May. New viewers, we are really counting on you guys. The people that are already subscribed can't get us to this number. It's got to be the new people that haven't clicked that subscribe button yet. So if you're new to this channel and you want free, informative Commanders content every single day, I welcome you guys to click that subscribe button and join our family today. So first up here, before we get into the players that I think could be secret weapons, I want to give you guys a little bit of a lesson in Dan Quinn ease, all right, and kind of the defense that he likes to run. And this is kind of the style defense that he's liked to run ever since his Dallas days after after he got fired from the Atlanta Falcons, and he kind of took stock in kind of what the league was doing and kind of modernized his classic Seattle 3 defense with what kind of the new NFL defensive coordinators were doing. So he bases out of 4-2-5, so that's nickel. Okay, so he has 4 down linemen with 2 off-ball linebackers and 5 DBs. That's what this defense bases out of, okay? And nickel is certainly something with all the speed in the National Football League, all the 11 personnel, which means 3 receivers on the field that NFL teams are running nowadays. You know, the Commanders want to be able to match that speed, and they kind of base out of this 4-2-5 kind of alignment. And Quinn also likes to use a bandit safety, which is a third safety. And, you know, the alignments, when they go to this bandit look, and this goes back to the Cowboys days with like Ron Kearse, if you remember him. He was their third safety that they used in this bandit role, which is kind of like a hybrid linebacker / safety that roams around the middle of the defense. When they're in that bandit package, they got 4 down linemen. They take an off-ball linebacker off the field, and they have 6 DBs. So they've got 3 corners, okay, and then they've got those 3 safeties on the field. And you see a bunch of kind of new school defensive coordinators around the league use this style of formation. Okay, like the Patriots use it a lot. Brian Flores pretty much bases out of this shit. All right, like this is the stuff that, you know, all the modern NFL defensive minds are running in the National Football League. So the fact that the Commanders have one of those guys, it's good news if you're a Commanders fan. And what that bandit safety's role is to essentially replace that linebacker's role in the middle of the defense. So you need somebody that's got a little bit more size to him, somebody that's got the athleticism to play out in coverage and the coverage ability and the instincts to be able to be a menace in the middle of the field. But you also have to have some of those linebacker type traits in order to fill this role effectively. This is why Jeremy Chin was so good in this defense, in my opinion, because he was 220 pounds and he could run like a deer. He was a perfect bandit safety for this defense here with Dan Quinn. And now that he's gone, I don't know necessarily if they have a guy of his caliber anymore, or maybe not that most people are aware of, but it certainly seems like some of the guys that they've drafted in the past that are kind of Jeremy Chin clones could be next up to fill this role in this Dan Quinn defense. But last year, when they went to this bandit look with Jeremy Chin playing that bandit role as kind of like a hybrid linebacker, they had to bring another safety on the field. And in those situations, the Commanders would bring in Percy Butler to go along with Quan Martin in the secondary for the Washington Commanders. But the problem is Percy Butler was terrible last year. 41.3 PFF grade for him last year. That was last among NFL safeties that were eligible for PFF grading last year. So I do think that the Commanders need to upgrade this position, and you know, losing Jeremy Chin already puts this team behind the 8 ball in terms of getting better when it comes to their safety groupings. And, you know, I do think that if they can get better at third safety, they should, all right? This is why I kind of looked at safeties in the NFL draft, for example, throughout our draft coverage on this channel, is because I think that this team can afford to upgrade at this position. And right now, I think the 2 bona fide starters in this group are Quan Martin and Will Harris. You know, these 2 players will have some sort of role in the defense on a fairly regular basis. They like Will Harris a lot and his versatility, his ability to be a menace in a versatile type of role that he showed last year in the New Orleans Saints defense, but neither of them is Jeremy Chin level big. Like, none of them is over 210 pounds, let alone the 220 that Jeremy Chin brought to the table. So when I look at who's going to be that third safety this year, there's some targets here. You know, there's some options that are in-house. Percy Butler was of course your option last year, but if you put Percy Butler back in that role, that means Will Harris, who's 205 pounds, that's not tiny, but that's not like linebacker, a hybrid linebacker type of big. You know, so I would have concerns about that if Percy Butler is filling this role again. But then you got 2 guys that you drafted last year, and Dominique Hampton and Tyler Owens. And we'll talk a little bit about Robert McDaniel here in just a second out of Jackson State. But we'll start with Dominique Hampton because I think he could be a legit secret weapon for this defense this year. All right, he is a big body, 220 pounds, and this guy is an athletic freak. This is why Adam Peters drafted this guy in the NFL draft last year, okay, is because of the high relative athletic score. He had an elite 40-yard dash time for the position at 4.51. He's got elite size. He's put on more weight since he's joined the Washington Commanders as well. And when you compare him to Jeremy Chinn, the guy that was the bandit safety in this defense last year, very similar physical profiles. Both are 220 pounds. Both had really good 40-yard dash times, all those different things. So, Hampton was always more of a raw prospect that had a great physical skill set. And he spent most of his time on the bench last year for the Washington Commanders, but perhaps they expect him to take on this role this season after a year of development and another offseason to develop within this defense. I could certainly see that being the case, especially given his athletic profile. But another athletic freak here to keep your eye on as a potential bandit safety in this defense is Tyler Owens, okay? This was somebody that was drafted last year out of Texas Tech, and like Jeremy Chinn, he had a perfect 10 out of 10 relative athletic score. So you're looking at two guys here that are athletic freaks, and they are, he weighed in at around 216 last year at the East-West Shrine Bowl, but he's lost a little bit of weight since then. He's sitting at around 212 now, but that's still more than big enough to play that bandit safety role. He ran a 4.35 as a safety at that size. That is like Nick him and Worry crazy level athleticism right there. Plus, he's got over 33-inch arms as a safety. So this is the type of guy here that did get on the field a little bit last year. Obviously, kind of like Dominique Hampton, he came into last season as kind of a raw prospect that needed development. But if either one of these two guys can develop, whether it's Hampton or whether it's Tyler Owens in year two, you're looking at a legit replacement for Jeremy Chinn that's on a very cheap, affordable rookie contract that could completely change the dynamic of the Washington Commanders defense this year. Then another guy that could be a secret weapon this year is Robert McDaniel out of Jackson State. He was a star defensive player for Jackson State over the last several seasons. And what I love about him is his versatility. All right, he can play safety. He can play slot corner. He can play linebacker. He can even play edge rusher. He lined up quite a bit at edge rusher last year as a DB, and he was winning. All right, like this guy's got some crazy bend and speed, and he's got some great instincts. So for a defense that likes to get creative with the way they attack pass NFL quarterbacks, all right, we know Dan Quinn and Joey Whitt Jr., they love to send out, different styles of blitzes and stunts and games and simulated pressures and do all the stuff that the modern defensive coordinators here in the NFL are doing. This is the type of weapon that you can deploy in your defense from any sort of alignment. You can even line them up at edge if you want and do some really fun, creative stuff with a guy like this. And you got him as a UDFA. I mean, and just like the other guys that we talked about, Owens and Hampton, Robert McDaniels' relative athletic score is excellent as well. It's over a 9 as well. So he is another athletic freak that you are interjecting into this defense. And the thing about these three guys, Hampton, Owens, and McDaniels, nobody knows their names, all right? Nobody sees these guys coming, all right, which is something that makes me very, very excited about what they're potentially going to bring to the table for the Commanders defense this year, because really Dan Quinn's calling card are these three safety packages, and these three guys are athletic freaks that do a bunch of different things for your defense. So I'm really excited to see how these guys are going to develop once we get these guys in for OTAs, once we get them in for training camp. I think that at least maybe one or maybe two of these guys between Hampton, Owens, and McDaniel is really going to make a name for themselves in the Commanders defense this year, and I can't wait to see them blossom into the players I believe they have the capability of becoming. So let me know down there in the comments section, who will be the breakout player for the Commanders defense this year? Will it be Jerzon Newton? Will it be somebody else? Will it be Mike Samerstill? Will it be Trey Amos? Will it be one of the guys we talked about today? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Really do appreciate all of your guys' support. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because if you love in-depth, informative Commanders videos like this one and you want them for free on the YouTube platform every single day, there's no better place to get that information and that kind of content than right here with the Commanders Report. All right, one more segment to go. It is the Commanders Report Q&A. What do we got for questions here, Joey? How many we got?
We got some more.
Got some more?
Great.
We're sitting at what?
We're sitting at, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8, 9, 10. A couple are like repeat same person.
Okay.
So if we get like 2 more,
yeah,
I think
let's put a 2-minute shot clock on, and let's give them 2 minutes of, last call here. Last call for questions. We're going to get into this mailbag here soon. 2 minutes to get your questions in, and then we'll get into the mailbag here. Joey, your thoughts on some of these younger, really athletic defensive backs that this Commanders team has invested in, kind of sat them for a year, and now they're bringing them into the fold here to potentially replace Jeremy Chin. It's a little bit of a risky move, in my opinion, banking on those guys to develop, but, it's also high reward with the way these guys can move.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's something that Dan Quinn does really well, is getting a lot out of his players. Unfortunately, Percy Butler had the season that he had last year.
Yeah, he was not good last year.
And that's that. But he wasn't like these guys. These guys are built different. They're better athletes. They're bigger. They're stronger. They're
Tyler
faster.
Owen's a perfect 10 out of 10 RAS.
100%.
Goodness gracious, that guy's a freak.
Yeah, and so I think Dan Quinn is the coach to get what these guys, the potential, the max potential they have. Dan Quinn's the guy that's going to get that out of them.
And how about McDaniel lining up at edge rusher? And
electric.
He was one of the most effective and efficient edge rushers in all of his level of football. He was unbelievable, man.
Did Jackson State, do they have PFF scores at Jackson State or no?
Maybe.
I doubt it.
I don't know, man, but he's a fun player on tape. That's all I know.
Yeah, I'm not seeing
They lined him up everywhere, and you had no idea what he was doing on any given play. Because on any given play, he could line up at safety, corner. He was a fantastic blitzer from the slot, which I think is something that could be his role here in Washington. Obviously you got Samerstill to play the slot here, but I don't know, man. He strikes me as a very fun bandit type of player. That these guys are all going to be duking it out in training camp to get playing time during the season, but somebody from this group, I feel good about them, emerging as a really good player.
You want to see something interesting?
What's up?
I looked up Robert McDaniel PFF, and the first thing that popped up is a YouTube clip of someone videoing you.
What?
Videoing the show.
Joey, show the camera. Show the camera. Look at this. Somebody recorded me saying this and then posted it on YouTube or Facebook?
On YouTube. Cease and desist.
Yeah, cease and desist is right.
And they have 7.6 thousand subscribers. So it's not like it's a small one.
Free publicity, I guess. How many likes? How many views is on that piece?
64 likes and 490 views. KC 1400 Media.
We're coming for you, Casey.
That was 2 days ago.
That was 2 days ago. I guess I'm not the only one that's taking on the Robert McDaniel hype here. Dude, that is so crazy, man. I'm going to have to check out that video later. They literally recorded it on their phone and then posted it pretty much.
It looks like they're literally just doing this with their phone to their computer screen.
We've made the big time here, folks, here on the Commanders Report. Speaking of the Commanders Report, we've got a mailbag to get to here, guys. Thank you so much for being patient with us. We got 235 people watching live right now. So by the way, guys, when we're in the mailbag, don't be afraid to get a question in there if something pops up. All right, Joey's going to be monitoring the chat, looking to see if there's anybody that puts in more questions. So don't be afraid to put #Commanders in there or super chat to make sure the question gets on the show. So without further ado, let's get into the mailbag right now. It is the Commanders Report mailbag here this week, and this is the segment every single week here on the show, guys, that I really enjoy because I get to have that two-way conversation with you guys, the fans of the Washington Commanders, where you guys bring your topics to me that you want me to discuss, and I can give you my best guess or my answer to whatever question you have to bring to the table here. And this is exactly why you subscribe to the Commanders Report by Chat Sports, guys. We have the most interactive community of Commanders fans anywhere on YouTube. We have daily poll questions that we put up on our on our community tab. We also put out daily videos where you guys can chat about the Commanders with your fellow Commanders fans in the comments section. And then we go live every single week as well, where we film these mailbags where you guys can have a direct voice in this community. So if you guys want to join the most interactive Commanders fan community anywhere on YouTube, this is the channel for you. Click that subscribe button and get in on the fun. Our first question comes from my man Eli Hokies fan. Says, which player are you excited to see? Jalen Lane, Trey Amos, Jaden Daniels, or Lawrence Cager? Out of that group right there, the person I'm most excited to see, I've already seen Jaden Daniels, right? I love watching him. The new player that I'm really excited to see, guys, out of that group is Trey Amos, cornerback out of Ole Miss. I think that he is a pro-ready guy. I think he's going to be able to really play really well in his rookie season on the other side of Marshawn Lattimore. He is exactly the type of player that they needed, where, Jonathan Jones coming off kind of a down year. He's an inside-outside versatile guy. I think he's much better as a depth piece than as a true starter, and you replace him with somebody here in Trey Amos who's probably going to start on the depth chart behind Jonathan Jones. He's going to have to earn the role that he takes on. But I fully expect him to have a good training camp and, the back issues that were reported on to not really flare up or anything like that. And I do think he's going to be a week one starter on the outside, on the other side of Marshawn Lattimore. So excited to see how he does in his rookie season. But Jalen Lane, watch out for him. He's going to be a hell of a punt returner for this team in 2025. Then we got Evan Underwood. Says, could you see Trey Hendrickson going for less than a first, like maybe a third next year and a 2027 second? I mean, maybe. At this point, I think if a team was willing to give up a first-round pick for him, I think he'd be gone. All right, I don't think the Commanders are willing to give up a first-round pick. And my kind of trade idea for him is I would swap first and second round picks next year. So essentially, the Commanders send the Bengals their first round pick next year, but they get Cincinnati's second round pick back. Then you give them a 2027 fourth round pick and Dorrance Armstrong. So that they can replace Trey Hendrickson with a starting caliber player in their defense. I think that makes sense for both sides. I think that'd be fair. The Commanders don't lose any draft picks in terms of the total number of picks. It's not like they're going to be using that first round pick on a quarterback or anything next year either. So I think that would be something that I would consider there, Evan, kind of an outside the box type of trade idea, but that's probably what I would be offering Cincinnati if I were the Commanders. But let me know down there in the comments section, what's the % chance that the Commanders land Trey Hendrickson via trade this offseason? Put it on a scale of 0, meaning no chance they land him, versus 100, all the way to 100%, which is they're getting him no matter what. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and when that happens, take advantage of that time. But let me know the % chance Trey Hendrickson becomes a Commander before the season. Then we got one from Ken Gray here. It says, with just $25 million in cap space, how can we extend Terry and afford Trey Hendrickson? Well, it's the way that you do it, Ken, is because of the just $25 million for this season, right? In future seasons, you have more than $25 million in cap space. Plus, you can restructure guys. You can do all the different things that you can do to create more cap space. And I do think that you can absolutely pull that off. Like, the thing about you guys need to understand about the NFL cap is that it is so manipulatable, it's not even funny. You guys can, you can backload contracts, you can restructure guys' contracts. Like, you can do so much stuff to offload money down the road that it's just child's play. So you can make it work if you want to. That's not the issue. And then also, the NFL is making so much money from their new broadcast contracts that the cap is going to go up astronomically in the next several years. All right, so you can backload some of these contracts, and it's not even going to affect you that much if you do that. So I do think the Commanders can make it work if they want to. That shouldn't be too much of an issue if they want to make it work. And hey, if you're trying to win a Super Bowl right now, you might as well go out and go all in for it. Christian White says, what do you guys think of Connerly and his direct impact? Coleman moving over can help, but what if it doesn't? Listen, man, I think that Connerly is going to be an immediate fit in this offense, because it's not going to be asking him to do stuff that he doesn't do very well. He's not the best run blocker in the world, but he's far from a terrible one. This offense is going to be very run heavy, or pass heavy, I should say, with Jaden Daniels. And then also there's going to be lots of read options that help out the offensive line and all that stuff. So Connerly, I think, is in the perfect fit for his skill set. Obviously, you interject Laramie Tunsil at left tackle as well, who's one of the best pass-protecting left tackles in all of football. And then I said from the beginning, if you guys have been watching this channel since last year, I said Brandon Coleman was his best fit was at guard last year. When the Commanders drafted him. So the fact that they're moving him in there, I think gives him the best chance at success. And if he doesn't have success, Christian, that means you got Nick Allegretti. That means you got Nate Herbig, guys that have started in this league that are more than serviceable to fill those roles on the offensive line if Coleman just isn't it this year. So I actually think this offensive line is the best that it's been in a very, very long time. This is the first time in a while that I remember feeling really optimistic about this group heading into a season. It's maybe not perfect or completely done just yet. They still need to make some moves, or certain players like Coleman still need to solidify themselves in this group at their current positions. But this is definitely looking up, and I'm really excited to see how this group's going to play next year. Before we get to the rest of the questions here, like the video if you haven't already, if you are a real one. And before we get into the rest of the questions today, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics. And if you guys don't have a Jaden Daniels jersey yet, what are we doing here, folks? This guy is going to be a Commanders legend. I'm pretty sure he's going to be the next Commanders quarterback to be raising a Lombardi trophy for this franchise and for this fan base. So if you want to have his jersey for the rest of your life, you can make that happen for yourself right now by going to chatsports.com/Daniels. I'll put the link to that in the comments and description of today's show. And if you click that link, all right, it has to be chatsports.com/Daniels, and you make a purchase, Fanatics sends us here at the Commanders Report part of the proceeds. So if you guys want to check that out, get yourself a Jaden Daniels jersey in your closet today. Go to chatsports.com/Daniels to make it happen. Then we're going from Dan Bonat. Dan Bonat, I hope I'm saying that right, says in week 2, 3, and 4, we play against Josh Jacobs, Ashton Jeanty, and Bijan Robinson. Who worries you most, and what should we do to counter them this early in the season? Good question here. Really good question. So out of those three, the guy that worries me the most, I mean, honestly, all of them do. But the guy that probably worries me the most is Jeanty, because the Commanders coaching staff doesn't have any film on him yet. And at that point, there's only going to be 2 weeks of film on him to go on. And he's tough, all right, because he's built really low to the ground, and he's got such good lower body strength that his contact balance might be the best I've ever seen. All right, so having a guy that's that short but that strong and that quick and fast and all the different things that he brings to the table, has a great vision, a fantastic jump cut, like a guy like that is just impossible to bring down. So the way you kind of counteract some of these really good rushers is that you got to load the box and you got to play bigger. So you got to have bigger personnel out there. You got to hope that guys like Dominique Hampton, Tyler Owens, one of those guys kind of comes up for you during the offseason program here, because those guys are 210 pounds or bigger. So those guys can be enforcers at safety. And, Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner are really good run defenders as well. So, the Commanders are very comfortable playing in one high safety packages where they have a true box safety being brought down into the box. And, that's the way that you counteract the run, is you put as many bodies in there as you can to plug up every single hole and, fill all the gaps that you need to fill. And you just don't give them anything. You got to play disciplined football. So it's going to come down to coaching. It's going to come down to, these bigger defensive backs that they drafted last year. Can they develop into year 2? There's a lot of different moving parts here, Dan Bonat. Really good question. But I would say Jeanty's probably the one I'm worried about the most. And then when it comes to how to counteract them, you put as many bodies in there as you can, and you stay disciplined. Then you go Connor. He says, should we still trade for Jalen Ramsey, considering Lattimore might not be 100%? I don't think so. I think Lattimore is going to get to a point where he's going to be, good enough to go. And then even if he's not, you can start, Jonathan Jones for the time being at the start of the season if Lattimore's not ready to go. And I think that he can hold up. I don't think that that's an issue. And if one of those guys gets hurt, Robert McDaniel out of Jackson State, you guys have, if you've been watching this channel, I'm championing this young man because he can do a lot of different things. And he played a lot of slot corner there at Jackson State. And I would kind of trust him to play there if push came to shove there. But I do think Lattimore will probably be ready to go week 1. I'm not too worried about that. But, yeah, I don't think it's a situation where it's like you got to panic and trade for Jalen Ramsey to make that happen. Then we got one from Andrew 2.0. Says, what do you think about Trey Amos's back injury? The Commanders aren't worried about it, and Amos isn't worried about it. So I'm not worried about it. Okay, now this is something that you got to keep tabs on, because it's like if we get into the season and it's week 3 and then we find out, oh, Amos has a back injury, then it's like, all right, this is a little bit of a red flag. But, apparently he has no limitations at practice. They don't feel like it's a big issue whatsoever. So until it proves to be a problem, Andrew, I'm not going to worry about it too much. Then we got one from JG. Says, how well would Hendrickson fit in Whitt's defensive schemes? Would Whitt make him a better run defender at the cost of sacks, or would he set him free on the quarterback? I think that Hendrickson would be just fine in this scheme, because, it's four down front. He's very used to being in 4-down fronts. He's a bigger type of guy. He played that both in New Orleans and in Cincinnati. And he's a decent run defender. I would say what limits him as a run defender is he doesn't have the longest arms in the world. But obviously he is a disruptive force as a one-on-one pass rusher. And then when they do deploy their stunts in their games and they ask him to blow up an offensive guard so that Jazon Newton or Javon Kinlaw can loop around with how athletic those guys are and get after quarterbacks, like he's going to be able to do that too. So I think Hendrickson is actually the perfect fit for this defense, because he does everything that they would ask him to do exceptionally well. So I have no problems with Hendrickson's fit in this defense. In fact, I love it, and that's why I would be willing to give up quite a bit to make him a Washington Commander this year. Connor comes back with another question, says, what position should we draft in the first round next year? It's way too early for that kind of question, Connor. Get me to 2025 before we start talking about 2026 here, my friend. But, just kind of forecasting a little bit here. Running back might be a position if Krosky Merritt doesn't show his worth this year. You got B-Rob and Austin Eckler, both free agents next year. It's a possibility they don't bring back either one of them. Wide receiver might be another one too if Deebo doesn't play well. Noah Brown doesn't play well, and there's regression there. Tight end, if Zach Ertz retires and Ben Sinnott isn't what you were hoping you were getting out of him, maybe tight end is going to be a thing. Linebacker with Bobby Wagner, he could retire. You could need to replace him next year. Like, there's a lot of different things that could happen, Connor, but we just don't know what will happen in the months to come, so we'll get answers to that when they come. So tell me down there in the comments section, which draft pick was your favorite from this year? For me personally, my favorite was Josh Connerly Jr. because he makes the entire offensive line better. All right, they're better at right tackle now. They're better at left guard because Coleman gets to play in a more natural spot for him, in my opinion, at guard. All right, I just think that you get better along that offensive line in more than one way by adding Josh Connerly Jr. to this offensive line. So that's why he is my favorite pick of the 2025 draft for the Washington Commanders. Really good questions this week, man. Good bunch of questions. We'll have another mailbag next week, so make sure you join us for our live show next week. If you got a question and you want to get on the show and you want to get your voice heard, all those different things, you guys are the absolute best. Thank you to all the supporters out there that support our channel every single day. Click that subscribe button if you want to join our family today. Until next time, guys, hail to the Commanders. All right, Joe.
Great questions today.
Great questions today. Great questions. What I love about this community is that this is a smart community of Commanders fans here. They this group knows what they're talking about. Okay, so, and that's why, I wake up every single day and I know I got to deliver for this group, Joey. I got to deliver some really high quality information. I got to deliver some high quality content for this group, because if I don't and I half-ass it, they're going to call me out on it, right? Yeah. So that's why I love covering this football team, and that's why I love working here at Chat Sports. Is that
they deserve your best.
They deserve my best, and I try to give that every single day for them.
Quick question before we get on out of here about Trey Hendrickson. For those of you who don't know, I also host our Packers show right here at Chat Sports. I've talked a lot about Trey Hendrickson because I think a lot like Commanders fans, Packers fans want the Packers to take a swing at Trey Hendrickson. Mm-hmm. Where do you think he would fit best, and where do you think he would rather go out of Washington or Green Bay?
Between them and the Packers, if Trey Hendrickson had a choice,
yes,
which one would he rather go to? I think he'd be fine with either one.
Yeah.
I really would. He would be a good fit in either one. But, like, if I would rather go to Washington if I were him.
Yeah.
I would.
Defensive coach.
Does a lot of stuff very unique and very modern NFL defense that they run here in Washington. Not that Green Bay runs like an archaic defense.
What's a 4-3?
They run kind of a Sala-based, type of defense, which is somewhat modern. And then offensively, when I'm talking about quarterback, you got Jaden Daniels versus Jordan Love. And Love's a good quarterback. I'm not trying to say he's not, but like Jaden's on his rookie deal, and he looks like he could be like a legit top 5 guy, maybe top 3 guy in the league, whereas Jordan Love is more of a top 10 guy maybe. So if I'm him, I think that could do. What's their cap situation right now?
They're 10th best in the NFL. I think they're at $31 million.
Okay, so they can afford to pay Trey.
Yeah, they could.
But yeah, I think that the Commanders is probably where I would want to go because I would love the head coach. I mean, both head coaches are great. I love Matt LaFleur, but defensive head coach, system that fits me perfectly. I'd be the number 1 guy. I wouldn't have to compete with Rashawn Gary, even though Gary's I wouldn't hate having him on the other side of me. But, I do think that if I were him, I'd want to play with Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn more than Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love. Yeah. It's not that the Packers situation is bad. I think he would love to go there. I don't think he cares necessarily between these two teams. Like, both of these teams can compete in the NFC next year.
Who's going to give him that $35 million? I feel like that might be what it comes down to.
Well, I think Washington would be more than willing to give him
I think so, too. They should be.
I mean, I'd pay him 36, 37. I don't know if I'd go up to 40 for him. I'd let Green Bay pay that number, but I'd be willing to go up to 36, 37. By the way, I think that's what he's asking for. Yeah. I think right now Cincinnati's offering like 31 or 32. And I
think he wants to be the second highest paid behind
Miles and he wants
Garrett.
to be the second guy behind Garrett. And, he has even said on McAfee, I don't need to be getting Garrett money. I just want to get paid like what the market rate is, which is around what Danielle Hunter got at 35.6.
Yeah.
And that's more than fair to me. More than fair to me. All right, that'll be it for today's show, guys. Great questions on the mailbag. We will see you guys again next week. You guys have been so supportive of me and Joey here. We want to extend our gratitude to you guys. We do have more content coming your way throughout the weekend, so make sure you click that subscribe button and turn on your notifications for whenever we put out new videos on this channel. Joey, you got anything you want to say before we head out?
We'll see you next week. Peace.
We'll see you next week here on the Commanders Report. Really do appreciate your guys' support. We'll see you guys next time, and until then, hail to the Commanders.